No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. Breathe in and out, slowly feel all that's around you. All that you feel, all that you know. Let it go. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. Yeah, when we unite. Oh, we unite. Yeah, yeah. When we unite. Yeah. You are welcome. Love is welcome. Peace is welcome. You are welcome.
Welcome, 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 everybody. How y'all doing? Happy Sunday Fun Day. Hello, hello. Is there anybody out there? Welcome. Happy Sunday Fun Day. Are you guys doing okay today? They're here. How wonderful. And they're awake. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, Ocala. We are just one of several all around the world that study this philosophy and teaching of the science of mind, among other things. And what's so awesome about this teaching is that we bring all kinds of modality into your awareness to help to uplift you and make you stronger so that you may live your best life. So that is why we are here and gathered here today. I don't have the clicker. Can you help me out? Thank you. I am rich, everybody. Give it up. Our vision here at Center for Spiritual Living Ocala is that we are a model center for spiritual living. And do you guys know what that means? We're the first one. Everybody want to be like us. But we are very different. If you go to different centers all around the world, they're very different. And this one in particular is extremely diverse and culturally wonderful. And so it's awesome. So we encourage you as you travel to go to other CSLs, experience what they got going on, and you'll realize that we are that model, right? We're the Model Center for Spiritual Living, as evidenced by the transformational impact we have on our spiritual community, which is you guys. And you guys know what it means to be transformed, right? You know, change is like the seasons. It comes in and it comes back and it goes. Transformation is what happens when the tree sprouts from the seed and can never go back. So we are transforming lives in our spiritual community, the CSL organization, which is the greater community, and Ocala and Florida and the world at large. And our mission is to empower individuals to awaken to that power and presence that lies within them and all around them, so they may tap into it and live their very best lives. And I believe that we're doing that. How many people feel like that's been happening in your life? I love that we talk about those missions and visions and all and the values here we chose as a community. So I invite you to say them with me if it resonates for you. So here it is up here: spiritual growth and practice, love, appreciation, community, freedom, creativity, health and wholeness, generosity, financial well-being. I feel good about every single one of those things. And because that's important in my life, I love that each and every one of y'all, you know, really line up to the same values as I do. So today, we are so blessed, y'all. Can I tell y'all how well this is worked out for us and how blessed we are here? If you look up this woman on Amazon, what are you ranked now? She was like number 4 in her book, like number 4, right? Incredible. And she's sitting right here. How many times have y'all seen an author and you've been like in the audience from like 1,000 people back wishing you could get your book signed? And here we are with the author in here going through this book with us every single month, teaching us from her mouth right to you. We are being spoon fed, y'all. This is how amazing it is. I'm so excited about this. And so I am just, thank you so much for taking a chance on our community and coming here with your gift and sharing your light. And everybody, Reverend Gay Lynn Williamson-Grigas is a unity minister, and she's a wonderful, wonderful light in the world, just sharing love and positivity. And she's here to teach us and to grow us today. So everybody, welcome, Reverend Gay Lynn.
Good morning, everyone. My name is David Grigas, and I will be introducing my wife, Gay Lynn. Gay Lynn is a licensed mental health counselor and a credentialed addiction professional with 30 years of experience working in the field. She completed the MDMA therapy training program through the Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies, MAPS. She is also in private practice here at the Center for Spiritual Living now, and she provides traditional counseling, individual and group medicine sessions, workshops, and retreats utilizing ketamine-assisted psychotherapist. I am her excellent assistant, so you can see me for appointments, workshops, sign-ups, and retreats, and to answer any questions. We are here at the center about 5 days a week now. You can find out more information at gaylyn.net. Flyers are in the lobby for upcoming events. And she's going to be talking today on the new book that was released in October, Psychedelics, Dreams and Rituals, a guidebook for explorers, therapists, and facilitators. I will be talking to you a little bit more about this, and a warm welcome to Gay Lynn Williamson-Grigas.
One of the things that I want you to know about Maria is that her life was not easy. Her life was very difficult in many ways. She innocently invited in a reporter, Gordon Wasson, to do a story on her, which was published in Life magazine in 1957. So when that story went out about Maria Sabina and the magic mushrooms and what they could do, her little village of Oaxaca in Mexico was just run over by people coming from all over the world wanting to experience this ceremony and receive this healing themselves. And so sometimes when we're here and we're doing our good work and our good deeds and our good healing and we're putting our light out there, we don't always attract the good back. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today is the shadow energy. Sometimes what that also attracts is this confusion and not knowing and what are they doing and why are they doing it. So Maria had to deal with shadow energy. She had to deal with the projection of that on her to the point where the Mexican police believed she was a drug dealer. The unwanted attention completely altered the social dynamics of the Mazatec community and threatened to terminate the Mazatec custom. The community blamed Sabina. Consequently, she was ostracized. Her house was burned down. Her son was murdered. And she was briefly jailed. Now realize what she had to overcome. Do you understand? Sometimes we think, oh, we got so much we're trying to overcome. We're just trying our best. But she had to overcome so much to continue to persevere and do what she knew that she was called to do. So it's important for us to know how to navigate shadow energy. It's important for us to know how to navigate shadow projections. So obviously, Maria Sabina was resilient. She prevailed. She went on to, now, if you go to Oaxaca, her picture is on the side of the taxi cabs. She's a hero to the community. But she had to go through the dark night of the soul in order to get there. And we have to go through our own dark night of the soul in order to get there. And I really honor and appreciate that you're here today to understand and to learn and to grow, not just from the light, but also grow and learn from the shadow. Because our power, in some ways, resides more there than anywhere else. And we're here today to reclaim that power, to reclaim our own soul, if you will. So turn to someone on your right or your left and say, thank you for showing up and being here today. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here today. David has a wonderful poem that he's going to be sharing that comes from Father Leo Booth. And he's going to be sharing that as an intro to some of what we're going to be talking about today.
Hello, hello. So this poem is from a man named Father Leo Booth, and I'll talk about him just a little bit to give it some context. He was a Catholic priest who got in trouble with a little too much liquor, and he ended up in a 12-step group and found what he believed to be real spirituality. And he actually wrote a book called When God Becomes a Drug, which was about religious addiction, people using their religion as someone would use drugs or booze. It's a very important book, and if you can find it on Amazon, it would be well worth searching that out. When God Becomes a Drug, Father Leo Booth. The book that I'm going to be reading from was an expansion of that book called Meditations for Compulsive People, Father Leo Booth. And the name of the poem is called The Boogeyman. We have all known the boogeyman. He hides in the shadows of our memories, in the flashbacks, the nightmares, yesterday's abuse. We all know the boogeyman. He's the secret that we cannot reveal, the buried trauma, the unspoken truth, the festering pain. The boogeyman is shame personified. I was a little boy when I first met the boogeyman, and my parents told me he would get me if I was naughty, if I told lies, if I thought bad things. I was told he lived in the park, amongst the trees, down near the boats, clothed in darkness, always watching me. I believed my parents as a child. I always believed what I was told, afraid he might grab me, chase me, eat me up. I imagined the boogeyman's face, dark and wrinkled, with green eyes and bad teeth. He limped, had a hump on his back, wore a large coat, and was always silent. The boogeyman never spoke. He only looked at me. I was 12. I was afraid, and I believed in him. I believed in him Once I thought I saw him. He was running between the trees down near the boats. I ran all the way home. God, I still remember that fear, that petrifying fear. My heart beat against my chest. I couldn't catch my breath, and I felt so sick in my stomach, fear. And the more I believed in him, the bigger he became. The more I feared, the more grotesque he became. And at 15, I pretended not to believe in the boogeyman. Inside, I was still afraid. Afraid of people, afraid of places, afraid of people knowing how I really felt. Then I discovered alcohol, and it drove back the fears and sent him to hide in the woods with the boogeyman. Parties, laughter, sex, power, religion, these things put me on top of the world. So I thought. Then the boogeyman came back. I became afraid of the dark, being alone, going to work, meeting people, talking in public, having sex, being wrong, being right. I was afraid of my shadow. I was afraid of the boogeyman. The more I drank, the bigger he became. The more I resisted, the more grotesque he became. Then an ordinary man who said he understood how I felt, said he knew where the boogeyman lived. Inside you, he replied. The boogeyman lived inside me. The boogeyman was me. The man understood. The boogeyman is that secret we cannot reveal, the buried experience, the other half of the half-truth, the festering pain. The boogeyman is the painful lie we cannot face. Today I understand that I gave the boogeyman power. I made him big. I made him grotesque. The boogeyman was the projection of my fear, shame, guilt, loneliness, insanity, my alcoholism. In therapy, I was told to confront the boogeyman. I was told to run in the park, amongst the trees, down near the boats. I was told to grab the boogeyman, hold him, look at him, really look at him, and accept the boogeyman is me. In order to heal, I needed to confront my childhood, confront my abuse, confront my fear. I couldn't go around it, below it, above it. I needed to accept it in my life. And here was the response. God says, the boogeyman is the fear that keeps you powerless, the fear that keeps you shamed, the fear that makes you a prisoner. In your childhood, you were fed the lie. The lie tells you you have no power. Bad people go to hell. Always keep people happy. Today's suffering will be rewarded in the next life. Sex is dirty. When you believe the lie, you give it power. The lie has no power unless you believe it. Make it real. Forever miss your specialness. Healing begins when we are prepared to embrace the boogeyman, accept our fears, confront the frightening memories, and tell the dark secrets.
The song that you're going to hear to kind of help lead you into this is called You Can't Rush Your Healing. And I want you to particularly listen to the words. You can't rush your healing. Darkness has its teachings. Love is never leaving. You can't rush your healing. We'll listen to this together now. And if you'd like to just meditate on this, enter into it, closed eyes, breathing, listening to the words, or however you are able to receive this message for your healing.
comes to me upon the strings. When I hear it, well, I sing. I can't say it's my creation, staying patient what it brings. Let me say I'm coming humble, I don't know what's right or wrong. I just keep on believing, passing down an old song. An old song. Well, everybody's got that chapter of dark and darker days. Saturn seems to be returning and his essence can't be tamed. Some we like to fight a giant, plan a secret attack. But the more you're pushing, the more it's pushing you back. So you can't rush your healing. Darkness has its teaching. Love is never leaving. You can't rush your healing. Your healing. Mama, well, she told me time is such a wonderful gift. You're not running out, you're really running in. Confusion clouds the heart, but it also points the way. Quiet down the mind, the more the song will play. So you can't rush your healing. Darkness has its teaching. Love is never leaving. You can't rush your healing. You can't rush your healing. Darkness has its teaching. Darkness has its teaching. Love is never leaving. You can't rush your healing. Darkness has its teaching. Love is never leaving. You can't rush your healing. Darkness has its teaching. Love is never leaving. You can't rush your healing. Darkness has its teaching. Love is never leaving. You can't rush your healing. Darkness has its teaching. Love is never leaving. leaving. You can't rush your healing.
Wow. You can't rush your healing. And it's what we're here for today. We are here for our healing. And so just maybe if you feel comfortable, just touch your heart and breathe into that. And just feel that love is always with us. Always, never leaving us. And just bring yourself into that heart center where that healing spark of the divinity resides and lights the way for us. We give thanks for this now, and so it is. All right. So welcome to the community of travelers. This is a group of brave souls sitting here in this room today, because what we're entering into is not a topic that you're going to hear on most Sunday mornings, right? And I'm going to talk about that and touch on that just a little bit. So welcome, community of travelers. And every time we gather together, it's unique and different. It's never going to be the same way twice. And we are here to love and help and energetically support one another. So the topic today is your golden shadow, loving all your parts. And one of the things to kind of recognize in the paradigm of how I'm speaking of this, and I use the analogy of a bus, right? And so there's a bus, and there's all these different parts of us that are on the bus, right? And there's a child part of us on the bus. There's an adult part of us on the bus. There's a worker, there's a son, a daughter, a brother, a sister, a mom or dad part of us on the bus. There's a worker that's a part of the bus. And there's a friend that's a part of the bus. All of these are parts of ourselves. And so part of what we need to discern, and the shadow is part of our bus. The shadow is on the bus. So, and fear is on the bus, right? And so, and anxiety is on the bus, and depression is on the bus. There's all these different parts of us on the bus. But what makes the greatest difference is to understand who's driving the bus. Okay? Who is driving the bus? What part of us is driving our life? Right? And so if fear is driving the bus, what kind of ride are we going to have? It's going to be a wicked ride, right? So we are understanding that all the parts of us are good, right? There are no bad parts of us. All the parts of us are good. And we need to love all the parts of us. In other words, we're not going to pull over and kick a part of us off the bus. Now, understanding that sometimes that's what we want to do. We want to just kick a part of us off the bus. And when we kick a part of us off the bus, what happens? It splits off and it takes on a life energy of its own. So part of this process is understanding and integrating all the parts of ourselves, loving all the parts of ourselves, and allowing ourselves to understand and really be compassionate towards who? Ourselves. To be self-compassionate, right? Be self-compassionate. And sometimes we're really good at this with other people, right? We have all kinds of compassion and understanding, and we comfort and we soothe and we reach out and we say nice things to other people. But what are we saying to ourselves? All right. And so that's about self-compassion and self-understanding and understanding and loving all the parts of ourselves. Now, as we're working through this, and you will see this woven through today, there's different parts of us that then will be the triune cord, and pathway is pathways that we can begin to understand and really kind of deepen our wisdom through psychedelics, dreams, and rituals. And I'm going to touch on each one of these today and how each one of these pathways can help us in our healing process. Now, we've talked about the trauma jar, right? And one of the things that the psychedelics do at their very, very best is they help us to come out of the trauma, right? And they help us to see the trauma or see our fear or see our anxiety or see our shadow from a larger perspective, right? We're not in it because it's really hard to see it when we're in it. Dreams can also do that for us. Ritual and ceremony can also do that for us. So all of these modalities, these triune pathways can help us to come out of the trauma and see it. Now, the body holds, right? The, part of what we have to understand is the body keeps the score, right? Bessel van der Kolk, right? I had an opportunity to study with Bessel last year. And one of the things that he said to me that was really most significant, he said, use all modalities. Don't get hung up on one. Use them all. You got a huge toolbox. You're not just going to use one tool. Use all your tools. And so that one gave me a lot of permission because I tend to work that way anyway, using all kinds of different modalities and all kinds of tools. And I don't use one tool with each person. Each person who I work with, each group I work with is totally unique and different. I'm there saying, I got a big toolbox. Let's see which one's going to help and serve you. So coming out of the trauma is like coming out of the body in a way, right? Because the body is what keeps the score. It kind of keeps us trapped. Also, coming out of the trauma jar is like coming out of the ego. All right, I'm just going to let that hang in the air for a minute, because part of this process of healing is getting beyond the ego. Now, one of the ways to look at the ego is the default mode network. And we've talked about the default mode network and what that does. And the default mode network in the brain is this part of the brain that just narrows our life into a very, very tiny, tiny stream of awareness, right? It only lets in a very little bit of our understanding and our wisdom and of a bigger picture that we could benefit from. And so the default network in the brain can almost be akin to as like the ego, right? The ego doesn't want new information, right? The ego doesn't want to see things from a different perspective. The ego is perfectly happy to be in control and make you do what it wants you to do and not vary your life very much. So we're going to understand, how do we get beyond that ego bound, right? And sometimes that's, the body is even called, this ego encapsulated flesh. How do we get beyond the ego encapsulated flesh? So let's look a little bit at the shadow. So the shadow is, were you ever, when you were a kid, did you ever like see the sun shining and then look back and try to see your own shadow? It's like, oh, look, that's me, So we all have a shadow, and we're working with shadow energy so that we can you all see that? Is that, okay. So we're doing our personal shadow work in order to do our healing process. Now, a great story that really personifies this is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It was a story written in 1886 by Robert Louis Stevenson. And Robert Louis Stevenson wrote a book about a benevolent doctor, Dr. Jekyll. And Dr. Jekyll created this powder. And when he took the powder, he became Mr. Hyde. And Mr. Hyde was not nice. He was everything that is the shadow side of us. He was evil, he was angry, he was jealous. And so here, this kind doctor who had a wonderful presence in the community and looked really good on the surface had the shadow side of Mr. Hyde. I think it's really interesting that he called him Mr. Hyde too, right? Or Mrs. Hyde, because that's the part that wants to hide from us, right? That's part of this integration process. So today we might say the powder is alcohol, right? And you know, and I know, there is something with alcohol in particular that you ingest that and you become a different person. It releases a part of you that would not be released otherwise. That's Dr. Jekyll and that's Mr. Hyde. All right. So Mr. Hyde is that part of the kind of shadow self, the part that carries the negative emotions, jealousy, lying, greed, anger, rage, shame, lust, resentment, and suicidal and homicidal tendencies. Remember this. Because eventually in the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and if you haven't read it in a while, it's a really poignant story. What happens to Mr. Hyde is what? Anybody know? He starts taking over, and when he completely takes over, he goes into the archetypal evil. And when he goes into the archetypal evil, he gets so immersed in that he actually takes his own life. He becomes suicidal and he takes his own life. So that's the power. And I'm saying that as a story, but how many of you know, consciously or unconsciously, people who've done this to themselves with drugs and alcohol and have died as a result of it? Just raise your hand. I can raise both hands. Now, there's hardly a hand in the room that isn't raised. Do you understand how powerful this is? Why aren't we talking about this every Sunday morning? Do you understand? Because it's a hard topic. It's really difficult to talk about this. And there's a part of you that's like, right now, and I'm just like, give a voice to it. The ego's like, well, that's not me. That's not me. She's not talking about me. This is none of my stuff, you know. This is about other people, right? And so, you know, just kind of be with that voice a little bit and say, well, maybe there's something we can learn here today. Maybe there's something that's a part of our healing that's in this today. Because the shadow shows up in this abusing ourselves with self-destructive thoughts and behaviors, okay? The self-loathing, the self-hatred, the self-destructive patterns of addictions, acting out behaviors. There was a woman that I was working with many decades ago, and she had an experience in a dream where her inner child came to her, right? But when her inner child came to her inner child was horrified and had this look on her face that just said, what are you doing? What are you doing? And so she brought with her recovery, and I said, what did that mean to you? She goes, I couldn't even look at her. I couldn't even look in her eyes. It was so painful to see what her pain was and her fear was. And I said, yes, that's because you're poisoning her. And she said, what? I said, every time you pick up the alcohol, it's poison. And you are killing her. And she is horrified that you are killing her. Click. She got it. She got it. Oh my God. I am killing myself. Which is really kind of like the shadow side. Like we don't even understand what we're doing, that we're doing it to ourselves. From that day forward, she was not going to poison and give that little girl any more poison. No more poison. And she's clean and sober. So it can be those moments, right? It can happen in a moment. It can happen over a curve of time where you understand that I'm acting out, and and there's lots of ways for us to act out, with sex, with money, with food, with work. They're all can become compulsive behaviors. And these are all shadow projections. So Father Leo Booth in The Boogeyman, and here's the power thoughts that go along with this. I am more than my fears. Let's say these together. I am more than my fears. I was not born with fear. I was taught to fear. So I can unlearn it, and in unlearning, find God. And that God for you can be higher power, inner healer, universal mind, loving presence. That's the God that we're looking to connect with, our source, right? And we all have to be connected with that source. Now, today, interestingly enough, is Palm Sunday, right? Today is Palm Sunday. So, and this is kind of like a big picture view of this, because you can't have the resurrection without the crucifixion. All right? So let that sink in for a minute and say to somebody on the right or your left, you can't have the resurrection without the crucifixion. Woo! Wow. You can't get to Sunday morning without Friday afternoon, right? And Jesus knows this, right? Jesus, as a master teacher, is walking through this, and he knows they're singing Hosanna today. But 1 week later, what are they saying? Crucify him. Same crowd, different day. And many of us have experienced this in our own lives, right? Where we've had people who are just like, wow, you're the greatest, you're the best, you're amazing. And then a week later, it's like, I don't know why I ever got in a relationship with you. You can't do anything right. What's wrong with you? You know? Same crowd, right? Same people. All right? So is it the people? Or is it how we understand this journey? Right? And so the shadow was projected onto Jesus in many ways, right? Because he did not fit their expectation. This is not what they wanted. They wanted a king. They wanted a ruler. They wanted a warrior, right? And he came in what? On a donkey, which is very humble, all right? And being humble means being teachable, right? Being humble to me, to say I'm humble is really I'm teachable, right? And so the more that we come in with this humility, with this openness, with an open mind, an open heart, an open spirit to learn, then we know that we're going to walk through some places in our life where it feels like the crucifixion, but we will get to the resurrection, right? And that's something we have to really, that's the love, that's the belief, that's the faith of knowing. We're going to talk a little bit more of how to get there. Now, when all of the parts of ourselves are split off, what happens is we kill off our own creativity. We repress ourselves. Our creative energy shuts down. That's the root of anxiety. When we repress our sexuality, that's the root of sexual abuse and incest. I worked in a ministry in Detroit, and the lieutenant governor of the state was a part of our congregation in Detroit, and she said that the highest rate of sexually transmitted diseases, and this was in Michigan, was where? In the Bible Belt of Michigan, in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which tends to be very conservative. And so what gets repressed, right, comes out sideways, comes out in inappropriate behavior, no recognition of boundaries, power over. So individual and collective repression of groups and projection of anger is also a part of the shadow energy. I was traveling across the country and I was doing a book tour with another one of my books, earlier books, and I went to a beach. I was sitting on a beach. I was just alone, so I was just hanging out. And this little girl, she was probably about 5 years old. She came over and she's playing with me, and we're just building sand castles. And this African American couple come by, and they had this beautiful shell, and they just presented it to her. They were like, "Here, you can have this." And she was like looking at them and looking at the shell and looking at me and looking at them and looking at the shell and looking at me. And I was like, "Oh, wow, that is so cool. This is so nice." And they walked away. She was a white little girl, 5 years old. And she's kind of looking back. Mom and dad are there. They know that she's there, and she's kind of just playing with me. And she looked up at me and she said, "Those are the bad people." She's 5. And I said, they just did something very loving for you. They shared a gift with you. They gave you this shell. They're not the bad people. And then my next question was, who told you they were the bad people? And what did she say? Mommy and daddy. Prejudice and racism is taught. It's not inherent within children. They don't come into the world that way. It's a projection of the fears of their parents or grandparents or generations onto them. So this is what we're healing. We're healing a collective consciousness as well. And genocide is another mass shadow projection. And that's when it really gets into the evil, when you get a whole core group that believe the same thing. And that's where genocide comes from. So we've been talking about adverse childhood experiences. And childhood experiences can be scary. They're confusing. The child is, as children, we're very self-centered. And in that self-centeredness, the child believes or thinks, I must have done something wrong, right? I caused this. It's my fault. And so if I was a good boy, if I was a good girl, then maybe mommy or daddy or my caregivers wouldn't be mad or wouldn't be unhappy or would not have left me, right? And it turns us into people-pleasing, codependent, and being so externalized that all we want to do is appease others. All right? That is an exhausting way to live. All right? Exhausting. And it doesn't work because guess what? You're never going to please them. All right? They're never going to please them. It's not going to happen. All right? Because if they're not happy and they can't please or know how to please themselves, there's no way you're going to be able to make them happy, appease them, and make them okay. All right? But we can exhaust, and I have done this, lots of energy trying to do this, right? But that's all lost energy, and we can get that energy back. And I want to show you how to do that. Okay? So as a child, sometimes we feel like, well, I deserve to be punished. And then we pick people in relationships who do what? And then we think that's normal. All right? So we have to get out of the script, right? We have to rewrite that script. If I was good enough, this wouldn't have happened to me. And that's where this deep-seated fear of being fatally flawed. I'm bad. I'm a mistake. And we may have heard from wounded and traumatized adults. You were a mistake. You were a oops. All right. Many years ago, a woman that I was working with in a treatment said, my parents said I was the seed of Satan. And boy, did I play that one out. Wow. It was one heck of a ride for her. All right. Because that was their projection. You are the seed of Satan. And so she was like, okay, got it. Got my script. I'm going to play that one out. All right. It was a projection. Do you understand? From her family. And so what did she have to do? That script is going to end up in one place, right? It's not going to work, right? So we have to edit the script, right? And some of this, she was incredibly resilient and powerful. I admired how well she did survive, right? So we're going to build on the skills that are already there, right? It's not that it was all a waste, right? She was a powerful woman. She just didn't know what to do to use her power most effectively, all right? So part of this work is, it can bring up stuff inside of us, and you have to just be okay with the tension, all right? And there's a tension of the opposite. So what does that mean, the tension of the opposite? The tension of the opposite is the light and the dark, the life and the death. These are opposites, right? The crucifixion and the resurrection, right? There's a tension there between these opposites. And when we're able to hold the tension of the opposites, right? And I'm going to show you how to do this and share with you how I've done this to a certain degree, and I'm still doing it to a certain degree as I continue to grow and as I continue to evolve. As we hold the tension of these opposites and don't collapse to either side, a third energy emerges. It's a womb, it's a birth, right? So then the crucifixion and the resurrection, right? The tomb becomes the womb for new life to emerge. You get it? And that new life emerges out of the darkness, out of the womb, out of the shadow energy. It becomes a birth canal. It becomes a place where we rebirth ourselves. All right? So sometimes during this process, though, you're going to feel like you're angry and you're shutting down emotionally and you tend to withdraw from people. And this can happen really quickly. And so we're addressing this directly because it will trigger perhaps irrational fears and worries, fear of abandonment. People will not love me. They don't want to be close to me. They'll leave me and I will be alone forever. And there's more emotions that get suppressed and cut off. And I sometimes use this analogy of the blocks, right? And so if I get blocked, all right, then no new energy can come in, nor can any of my energy go out. Do you understand? I'm blocked. So the work that we're doing here at this center right now, today, in this moment, is to get unblocked, right? Put the blocks down. So turn to someone on your right or your left and say, put the blocks down. Put the blocks down. Put them down. Put them down. They do not serve us. Now, when we block ourselves emotionally, right, what this might look like is emotions equal energy in motion. All right? Emotions equal energy in motion. So if you see someone who's really passionate and full of life and full of vitality and full of energy, what are they allowing to flow? Their emotions. See, they are allowing for a full range of emotions. All right? And what happens when we suppress or cut off our emotions, all right? When we suppress or cut off our emotions, what are we cutting off? The energy. The energy. And we are energetic beings. So the more that we cut off our energy, the more we become de-energized and depressed and diseased. Let's kind of be with that for a minute. That's a big one. That's a really big one. All right? This is how the healing happens, by allowing the spaciousness for that false self to drop away, to allow for the energy and the emotions to flow, no matter if they're the ones we like or the ones we might not like so much. And they suggest that you have a opportunity to let them all flow. Now, I'm not saying let them flow on your significant other, all right, or your family or your friends. But there's lots of ways that you can let that energy have a space to flow without it being destructive to you or someone else, right? Utilize your journal. Talk it out with someone who you can trust. That's why doing this work is really important, to do it with a therapist, a guide, a facilitator, so that we understand how to integrate the energy. And perhaps you were told when you were little, stop crying. You know, anybody told that? Stop crying or I will. Everybody got that script. Everybody. Generational script there, okay? Stop being angry. Stop being so noisy, right? I took Pete to kindergarten the very first days. My youngest of the 5, last one to kindergarten, right? So I walk him to the door, and he's 5 years old, and he looks back at me, and he's like, "I'm good." Like, you don't have to go in. You don't have. I was like, and I'm like a basket case. I'm like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "I can walk you in. I'm here. I'm fine. I'm not going to embarrass you. I promise." I just, and he's like, he was just giving me the hand motions, like, "I'm cool. I'm good. I'm got it." And I was like, okay. So I'm walking out, and I'm kind of dabbing my eyes as I'm walking out. And there's this dad, and he's walking in with his son, and his son is behind him, way behind him. Son is just dragging his backpack, and he's going really, really slow. And the dad turns around, and he says to him, "Come on, dumbass." Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was in shock. All I could do was pray for that little boy right in that moment, right? Just send him as much love, as much healing. But I also saw that little boy as he's growing up and how he felt about himself. And God forbid the person that ever calls him a dumbass again, you know what's going to happen? It's going to come out sideways. It's all going to just come out like rage. Right? That's what happens to us. And we pay attention to this, and we understand this, we validate our own pain and suffering, and know that it's okay for us to have a voice. It's okay for us to be loud. It's okay for us to feel the heat of anger and allow the outraged parts of ourselves to have a voice. Let yourself speak the truth without being triggered and overwhelmed by it. And I love this quote by Maggie Kuhn. She was the head of the Grey Panthers. She said, "Speak the truth, even if your voice shakes." Speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. I saw her when she was 85 years old. I did not think she was going to make it to the middle of the stage. She walked so slow with her cane. But when she got to that microphone and spoke to the thousands of people that were there at the Conscious Aging Conference, it was like, boom. Every one of us could hear her and feel her presence and know. And you know what she said? One thing that I always keep close to my heart: if you want to be young, if you want to stay young, be around young people. Be around young people. And you will see, I keep lots of, I'm grateful that I have so many young people around me, because there's an energetic exchange there. They keep me vibrant. I keep them vibrant. I get to share my wisdom, right? They get to have this exchange with someone who is their mirror for them as they're in this growth process. So dreams can be a big part of this too. Sometimes we're running from the shadow parts of the self. Maybe there's an animal that's chasing us. And these may be dreams that repeat themselves over and over again. And if you're ready, lean in and reclaim that energy and be curious. Have an experienced therapist, guide, or facilitator that can work with you. Take a breath, face what is chasing you. What is locked up in the basement? What is underground or in the tunnel or in prison? And sometimes these repressed feelings at first are going to come out a little prickly, right? They're going to sound defensive. It's going to feel frustrating, but allow for that. Give yourself permission to allow that energy that's been depressed for a long time to come out. This is the golden shadow. Carl Jung, who is credited with much of this research and much of the information that I'm sharing with you today on the shadow, has said 90% of our shadow is golden. Okay, that means we can redeem that energy. We can redeem that power. We can integrate that. We don't have to act out of the false self. We can act in congruency with ourselves, our whole self, mind, body, spirit, all aspects of ourself. You have the keys in your own hand. And so many times I'm working with people and I will say to them, because they're looking at me like, show me how to get out of this. Show me, like I have some magic in me, that I have the wand somehow, right? My feathers, my magic feathers, I can move some energy, but ultimately what I say is the keys are in your hand, right? You have to be willing to let yourself out of your own prison. I can't do it for you, and nobody else can either. We are the only ones who have the keys. We're the ones to let ourselves out. Now, I'll tell them also there is some really good, there's a roadmap for this. There's a really good roadmap. And they're like, oh, okay, what is it? Tell me about the roadmap. I want to learn about this. And I say, well, they're called the 12 steps. And they're like, what? The 12 steps? What does that mean? They're a roadmap. So the first one is we admitted we were powerless over our compulsivity, whatever that compulsivity is. And that's the thing that the shadow wants to keep us locked in, right? The shadow is imprisoning us in the compulsive behaviors that we repeat over and over and over, and we tell ourselves this is normal. This is really important stuff we're talking about this morning. Really important. All right? So we came to believe because the ego, the rational mind, cannot free us, right? The rational mind, the egoic mind, the mental constructs can't release us, right? We have to have this combination of thinking and feeling, right? That is where this comes from. So that combined with knowing I am rooted and grounded in my source. I am rooted and grounded in my source. There is a power greater than myself. And somebody says, well, what's the definition of narcissism? They think they're the power. That's the narcissist, right? They don't need anybody. They are the power, right? You get it? So what we're saying is, I'm not the power, but I have access to the power. There is a power greater than myself that can do what? Restore me to sanity, right? And so many of the people that I work with, they come and they're just like, I'm just going crazy right now. I just feel really like, I feel like I'm going insane, right? And I said, and you know what I go? Yay! Like, she's cruel. I'm not cruel. I'm just acknowledging what? They're ready to surrender. You understand? We've got to be ready. to surrender to something greater than ourselves in order to be helped, in order to unlock ourselves from the prison. So I want to just briefly, in closing, I want to share a little bit about part of my own healing journey. And this came about in a completely unexpected way that I could not have made up for anything. So I was on a book tour. I was at Walter Starkey's River Ranch. Walter Starkey was a playwright, and he wrote Cabaret. And he was in that whole New York scene, and he had a wonderful river ranch, Guadalupe River Ranch, where they did retreats. And I was there at a retreat, and he invited me. He said, would you like to go to the grotto of the Black Madonna? And I said, the what of the who? You know, he said, the grotto of the Black Madonna. And I said, yeah, that'd be great. So I went and found it on the property, the grotto. And for some reason, as I was like at the opening of the grotto, it's kind of like a little cave. And there was a beautiful statue of the Black Madonna within the cave. And the whole interior of the cave was candle lit. So I just had this feeling of like I was going into something sacred, right? And so I took my shoes off and I went into the grotto. And as I went into the grotto, I had this big sob that just started coming up from very deep inside of me. And I realized how disconnected that I had perhaps been from my own divine feminine, from that my own connection to a loving presence of mother. And so I stayed in there for quite a long time. And right before I left, I had this ring on and it had the sun that's radiating. And there was wax around the beautiful Black Madonna. And so I took my ring and I pressed it into the wax, like just to leave a part of me there with her. And as I looked, her dress had the same symbol of the same sun all over it. And she said to me in my heart, I am with you always. And in that moment, something shifted profoundly inside of me. So I couldn't even explain it. There was no words. It was way beyond what I could really integrate. So that night, I went to sleep and I had nightmares. Here's the shadow energy getting integrated, okay? Nightmares, again, Carl Jung, if you say, oh, I had a nightmare, and we're like, yay, nightmares, and you're like, no, nightmares, but they're a release of the energy. They're a release and integration of the shadow. And in the nightmare, I had so much rage that was split off. It was rage toward family, rage toward my mother, rage toward the patriarchy. I mean, it was deep, deep rage. And it all came up inside of me all at once. And I just was saying things, even in my dream, that I don't usually say in day to day. It was just all coming out. And the Black Madonna came over to me and she put her arms around me and she absorbed all the rage and transformed it. I woke up, heart racing, pounding, completely drenched in sweat, but knew for the first time I had a mom who loved me and cared for me, all of me, not just the nice parts, but she could accept me and embrace me. And I carry her energy with me all the time. She's with me. There's never a time when she's not with me. And when I work with people, Guess who often shows up? The mother. She shows up and she takes the hurt and she takes the pain and she takes all of our rage and she absorbs it into her and she transforms it and transmutes it and turns it back into power that we get to use for healing in our lives and the lives of others. She is our divine help. She is our hope. She is our healing miracle. She is our feminine powers. She is our fertility and our sexuality. She is the earth goddess, and her African origins are from Africa and the original Earth Mother. And Mary Magdalene is often known or spoken of as the Black Madonna. I have traveled around the world to be in her energy field in many, many different places. This picture comes from Chartres Cathedral in France, where the Black Madonna is exonerated and has a place of power, and she has a purpose. Now, remember I said this is the holding on to the tension of the opposites? This is the tension of the opposites, where the masculine and the feminine, but it's the feminine energy that we're often missing that is the shadow. She works at night. She works in dreams. She works in moonlight, right? She works when we're in the journey, right? She works in those realms. And the more we invite her in, the more we are able to be healed and receive her blessing. Ah, wow. So, what we're doing is holding a new perspective that's larger than the trauma. We get out of the shame and the finger pointing. We're not trapped in the museum of the past. We take our power back. We transmute and transform some of the shadow energies. We respond to our shadow part instead of with self-loathing, with self-compassion. That's the integration. You are not responsible for other people's shadow, right? You clean your own backyard. And it's so easy to look at other people and go, well, you see it's in their shadow, don't you? It's like, mm-mm. No. You clean your own backyard, right? And a lot of people spend a lot of energy, useless, unnecessary suffering, try to clean other people's backyards. And they don't like it. They don't want it. Don't help people that haven't asked for your help. That was a big lesson for me, right? Don't help people who haven't asked for your help. Don't offer to clean their yard if they haven't invited you. Now, if they invite you, that's different, right? So I alone must do it, but I never do it alone. Let's say that together. I alone must do it, but I never do it alone. All right. We're going to do real quick exercise to close because I want to teach you how to tap into this so you know exactly what you need to work on. And there's no question about what is. All right. You're going to take this piece of paper. I'm going to show you how to do this. You can do it over and over again once I show you how to do it, right? There's paper and pens on all the chairs. All right. So on this side of the paper, what you're going to write down, you're going to think about somebody who maybe pushes your buttons, triggers you. Now, if they're sitting next to you, don't let them see your paper. All right. And you're just going to write down a couple of things that they do that really just kind of annoy you, frustrate you, make you angry. What are they doing? Right? Just 2 or 3 things. This is just going to be a way for you to kind of do this exercise, know how to do it so you can repeat it for yourself. All right, so take a few minutes. And this is for your eyes only. If you want to share something you gained out of it, you can, but you don't have to share what's on this with anybody but you. All right? So write down a couple things. Okay. Everybody got a few things? Now, on the other side of the paper, if I had a magic wand and you could change that behavior in any way, shape, or form that you would like to change that behavior, you got the magic wand now, what would they do differently? All right, what would they do differently? Bless you. Okay. All right. Now, everybody done? Anybody need another minute? Okay. Now, the things that you wrote that you want them to do differently, I want you to do those things for yourself. All right? What is on that other side of the paper that you can do for yourself? All right? Oftentimes we project out onto others what we really are not doing for ourselves, right? And we want them to do it for us, but we also, and it's all right to ask for that, but we also need to do this for ourselves. Anybody have a little bit of a shift when you read that other side of the list and just went, ah, okay, okay, I see. This is what I need to do for me. This is how I need to heal me. This is how I need to honor and respect myself. This is how I need to self-care and self-compassion for me. That's on that side of it. You see it? Okay. All right. So, wow. This has been quite an experience for me today. Thank you. I am deeply, deeply grateful that you took this journey with me today, that you were willing to listen and to receive that healing, and whatever that healing is for you, it's uniquely for you and for your life. I was going to do a little bit of a think, pair, and share, but I think our time is not going to allow that. So I would ask you, though, to share with somebody. Okay, we're going to take 1 minute, okay? We'll take 1 minute, 30 seconds each. Each person just gets to say what your takeaway is from today, all right? What is your takeaway? So you pair with somebody pairs with you, and what's your takeaway from today? Because it is important for you to hear yourself say this. It is important for you, for the integration purpose, for you to hear that. All right, so you share with someone and someone shares with you. What's your takeaway? What did you learn? What did you gain? What's your insight? What's your awareness? Okay. All right, let's bring those sharings to a close. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm going to be doing the next fourth Sunday of the month in April is on self-compassion and self-forgiveness, and integration is the key. There's the rest of the titles for the rest of the months coming up. I am working here at the center now doing traditional counseling. I'm going to just go through this very quickly. There's some really exciting experiences coming up. The Inner Healer Workshop is for anyone who's interested in dipping their toe into the ketamine-assisted psychotherapy experience. It's going to be April 6th. It's going to be right here at the center. So Rita has a sign-up sheet just for anyone who wants to get information. You just give Rita your name, your phone number, and we'll call you and give you information on these. On April the 12th, we're going to do the equine therapy with the ketamine-assisted psychotherapy at Tudor Farms. April is going to be the only date left until September. So if this is something that you really want to do, be sure to do it in April. There's a few spots left in there for the inner wisdom. And I'm very excited to say we're going to do the breath work with the ketamine assisted. John Thomas is going to be with us again. It's going to be right here, Friday, April 19th, 6:30 to 9:30. It's going to be reserve your spot. And of course, with any of these, we do need a medical evaluation unless you already have your own prescription. If you have your own prescription for these events, you can come. Oops, one more. Psychedelic Integration Circle. David's going to be doing the Psychedelic Integration Circle outside, around the ring with campfire is. This is a safe place to share, talk about your experiences. It's not therapy. We're just sharing with one another. And it is for education, information, and harm reduction. And the center does have books. Purchase your books from here. A portion of all the proceeds go to the Center for Spiritual Living. Thank you so much. Woo! Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we're waiting for Miss Donna to close us out. Now paging, Miss Donna Davis. Now paging, Miss Donna Davis. Yeah, we can do it. So it is in the nature of life to give of itself, as it is the tree's nature to bear fruit and the flower's nature to bloom. It is in my nature to share the gifts of my time, talent, and treasure. I participate in the divine flow of life, giving generously and receiving abundantly. I am blessed and I am a blessing. And you can see there's a lot of things happening here at the center. The whole room here got painted. The bathroom got painted this week, and your funds that come in are being watched over very carefully and allocated properly for the growth of the center. Yes, yes. You bring up some music. You can bring up some music, Rich, if you want. There's more than one way to give. You can give here at the center. You can also text to give. If you put this number in your phone on a text, you can set it up. You can go to the website, cslocala.org. You can pay via PayPal, which is a convenient way to do it also. You can sign up for the newsletter, cslocala.org. Keep up to date with what's going on. And we have events coming up. You want to talk about events, Miss Donna? Okay, here we go. It's all you. Here's your clicker. Here's your mic.
All right, everybody. Wasn't that wonderful? I was able to catch it online. And so was the parents and the people in the back. So thank you so much. Yeah. Yes. Let's go ahead and give a blessing to all our giving and tithes and offerings. Mm-hmm. So here's the wonderful thing about the law of circulation. The law of circulation is there for us. And as we put in, we receive. And I love that the circulation works where I get so much more than I give in. But because of my givingness, others receive. And I love that. And so this place exists because of the givingness of everyone, their time, their talents, their treasure, everybody that steps foot on this stage. The givingness of Reverend Gail today, right, has touched all of us in such a big way. So at this time, I want you to just kind of step into your heart space and think about all the givingness that you ever give. Every time you pay a bill, that's part of the circulation. There's an employee at the electric store who's feeding their family because you paid your bill. How wonderful is it that you can just think about those children eating because you did that? Every time you give to a homeless person, to the neighbor next to you, all of that. Well, right now, as you're giving carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, the trees are saying, yes, thank you, because spring is happening because of your givingness. And at this time, I'd like to just bless all of the tithes and offerings that come into this center. Everyone that puts their hands so that this place may grow and thrive and be here as a beacon of hope and love for our community here in Ocala, Florida. I know that as our children are coming up in this teaching, as they're being seen as spirit expressed, I know that that too is a part of our givingness. And we're changing the paradigm for all of us. We're healing ourselves. We're healing the world just with our moments of givingness. I'm so grateful that nature is giving to us right now. And even though sometimes it comes with a little bit of challenges via allergies and all of that, so too though, the givingness is there. And we know that life is always assured. I'm so grateful for my own givingness, that I stand on this stage today and speak these words knowing that it's already done. And so it is. All right, so what's happening? Hey, D-Man in the back, go ahead and tell Ocean he can turn on his train. Still I rise. So the fifth Sunday, we're going to be doing a poetry slam and open mic. How many people have ever been to a poetry slam do this? Y'all know that's how it works, right? We're going to get the vibe up in here. You don't want to miss this. We have a lot of really awesome people presenting their work and just sharing their spirit with us via poetry or music, so you don't want to miss that. That is how we all rise together. Also, after the open mic, we are going to be having a potluck. So please bring some food to share. Bring your favorite Easter-style dishes. I'm going to probably get some bun and cheese because that's a Jamaican thing for Easter. And it'd be great to share that, right? You have to make mac and cheese. She makes the best mac and cheese, y'all, and she doesn't even taste it. One day we made her taste a noodle. But the kids love the mac and cheese. Directly after we eat, we're going to be having an egg hunt. Thank you so much to Christina for heading that up for the children. So we need, 2 more volunteers to be able to hide eggs. So please see Christina back there if you want to be part of the fun to hide those eggs while everybody's eating. There she is right there looking fabulous and springy today. All right, so the year-long Foundations of the Science of Mind course. Usually Foundations of the Science of Mind is a 10-week course that you pay for. It's a certificated course in Science of Mind because guess what? We actually have a college, a university that you go to become a minister. And so we have to keep track of those classes. This is the very first class. And Cindy decided that she wanted everyone to get this and not have to pay for it. So we decided to make it a curriculum for the year. So if you come and you want to be a part of that and get your certificate for this course, go ahead and plug in online and sign up and do the assignments. And then at the end of the year, we do presentations. Okay, all right. So if you have written your letter to yourself, make sure you send it, you give it here to Norma, and that way we can go ahead and hang on to it for the year. It's really kind of fun to see it show up. I've done that, looked at my own handwriting and said, who is this from? Y'all, it even says my name. It's crazy. Did you need something? Okay. Okay, if you did not get your 2023 letter to yourself and you just want to grab it, then go ahead and let us know and we'll give it to you so you can, feel that experience again. You'd be surprised how much you've grown in a year. Beyond Limits is going to be taught by yours truly. This is another foundational course. So, like Foundations, Beyond Limits is one of those certificated courses at the base. If you can have either or, you can take Foundations or Beyond Limits to be able to move forward. And I'm sorry? Or both. It's up to you. It's just a little bit different. It's beginning April 10th, Wednesday evenings at 6. This is a hybrid course because some people are going to be online. So we want to be able to, have it for everyone available. So if you want to know about that, let me know and you can join us for that class. Armand and Angelina are coming, y'all. How many people have ever seen these two? Y'all are in for a treat if you've never seen them. This is where I got my Native American flutes, and they did a flute workshop when I first met them. Incredible people. And this time they're going to be doing us a comedy show and music, and it's going to be so much fun. So you definitely don't want to miss them. Saturday, April 13th at 6 p.m. It is a suggested love offering of $20, conscious exchange. But if for whatever reason you don't have the funds, there's some that may have a little bit extra and may give a ticket or two. You never know, so show up. And it's better to have a full room of people than not enough people to give them medicine back. Performers get up here and give you their medicine, but having an audience is what makes performing all worth it. So you want to come in for that. They're also going to be up here on Sunday, April 14th, giving the talk, and the music series, the music service is called Turn the Other Cheek. You definitely want to be here for that. She's classically trained, y'all. You haven't heard an angelic voice like this. It's incredible. And he's bar trained. April 19th from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. we have breath work and ketamine-assisted meditation. And this is going to be hosted by our very own Gay Lynn Williamson-Grigas and John Thomas. You don't want to miss that. Reservations are required, so you definitely have to speak to David here, and David will get you plugged into that. Volunteer opportunities. Cole, our volunteer coordinator, is over there in the back. He will help you out. There's also a QR code right here if you want to go ahead and take a picture of it, scan it with your phone. When I tell you, if you're walking and breathing, you got a skill that we can use, I'm sure. Because sometimes all we need is presence. Sometimes it's just a person in the space. And so trust me when I tell you, the best way to really get your hands into this community is to volunteer. So that way you can see all the back end stuff that's going on. All right, where's my munchkins, our smallest members? Come on out, y'all. All right, DJ, crank it up.
This little light of mine,
Clap it off.
I'm gonna let it shine.
Y'all remember, you got to pump up your energy to call children. They resonate up here now. I'm gonna let it shine. Come on, guys.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine, shine. Shine, shine. You know you want to. Shine, shine. All around the world. Shine, shine. Everywhere I go.
All right, all right, all right. Come on up here, Nisa. Just because you're holding that baby hostage don't mean you can't come up here and get a blessing.
I'm gonna let it shine everywhere I go.
All right, rub your hands together, everybody. Rub it on together, and just beam us some love. The world is a prickly, prickly place, and it's so wonderful to have love around you. And we say together, we honor you. We see your light. May it shine on all that you do. And this time, turn it around to yourself, because there's a little person inside there too. And you say, I honor you. I see your light. May we shine on all that we do. And so it is. Thank you guys so much. And now the prayer for protection. Wilma. Oh, oh my gosh, I love you, girl. Wilma said there is food in the kitchen. Please feel free. There's also a lost and found on the table outside there, just in case you left something here and we gathered it together. Please, please, please gather your things. What's the other thing? Oh, integrations at 1 o'clock. Please stick around for that. You don't want to miss that. That's going to be incredible. All right, everybody. I'm going to invite you to stand now. And here's what happens when you learn something new. Shake, shake, shake. Just in case anything is in there that needed to come loose. Because you know you've been sitting. Shake, shake, shake. All right, here we go. Now it's in the ground. Mother Gaia's got you. Okay. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And so it is. See y'all next week, everybody. If I can get my